That's right. You can hear the roosters crowing. It's Friday morning, folks. It is the last week of 2022, and you're here listening to another episode of Staying Super with Simply Super Dave. I appreciate all you tuning in. I really have been overwhelmed with gratitude inside my heart and soul for how many times we have been listened to so far in the first 2 weeks of the show. This is obviously, I started 3 weeks ago on a Friday. I dropped the very first, hey, I'm Dave kind of episode. So here we are 3 weeks later and starting our third week. So 2 weeks in, a little over 200 views or listens. I keep views. I get that in my head because we are available on all platforms. YouTube seems to be the more popular one because who doesn't have YouTube, right? Look me up, Simply Super Dave. Well, I don't have to tell you that. You're listening. But other platforms, if you're an Apple user, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, soon to be Amazon, but they're kind of weird about their submission form. I've already done it several times. Anyway, Deezer, Podcast Addicts, iHeartRadio, I'm everywhere. Look me up. Google Podcast, there too. So check out the podcast when you can, on any platform. So if you can't get to one, you got alternate routes, but you can listen at any time and pleasure. And I kind of like that, but we will be doing a live stream this weekend at some point. Give that a test run and figure it out. You can come along for the ride. I don't know how it works, so I'll let you know as I figure it out. I don't know if it comes on platforms or if it's just through Spreaker or what it is. And Spreaker is the app I use to do the podcast, which is a great app so far, at least for a beginner like me. I don't know what I'm really doing. So I'm just enjoying stuff. This week we have been talking about unity, and we're going to finish it off this Friday with another suggested topic. Yesterday we handled our first suggested topic from a listener via YouTube comments, which we discussed in 9/11. But I also brought in a few other historical moments over the past century that brought about my point of what happened with 9/11. And overall, in a short story, you could believe in what was the motives, how it happened, or whatever. But the aftermath of what happened was the tragedy. Taking so much unity and so much potential positive reaction and turning into a 20-year power struggle, which ended up making certain people very, very rich from the situation. Like I said, it was taken advantage of in my mind, and I think that was the greatest tragedy of 9/11 in a short nutshell. But if you want to listen to yesterday's episode, I certainly encourage you to. And give it a little thinking, because what was the Titanic? What? Yeah. Come on. Big boat, little fucking iceberg in the middle of a huge ocean. Richest people in the planet on the boat. It was a good timing. Or coincidence. Never know. Yeah, we do. We all know. Even so, that was a good moment because I love interaction. Follow me on Twitter, Simply Super Dave. Hit me up any way that you can. Comment-wise, I'm getting used to all the different platforms and communication. By the way, I mean, you know me. You know, the first week we talked about who I am, my philosophy on life, my bubble theory, what energy is to me and what I believe in it. And I love surrounding myself by life. So I know I'm not in a studio or anything, but I love the fact that I got life just bubbling around me, including roosters letting everybody know the day has begun. It's a little still rainy here, and I'm glad you all persevered. Yeah, the rainstorm last night I went through, a little hail involved in that, so it was a nice little moment to be out and about. But this morning everything settled off, soggy and wet, but it's another beautiful day in Louisiana, and today's topic is about how the control, I mean, if you think about it, when cities are built and they replant trees and they put them all throughout the city, they make sure there are certain type of trees for this particular reason. They don't want fruit-bearing trees because then it would litter the ground. So the idea is most trees in cities are male productive trees. I know that sounds weird, but folks, there is different types of trees. But anyway, there are types of trees that are genetically used where they don't bear fruit. So you would always catch this because there's two great moments that have happened over the last 100+ years in human society. One is called the Industrial Revolution. All right, and that's going to bring about today's topic, which is about that. How the Industrial Revolution has affected our ways of life, like medical, for example, is a big effect. The way that our cities have been built, they all moved away from nature. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, you plant trees systematically for a purpose other than what the trees were purposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So right there, you're altering nature within the city limits of what you falsify as nature within the city limits. Okay, let's be real about that. Because whenever you come across a park, it's done on purpose, and they make sure it's been forested out and replanted with what needs to be there. Most of these things are always thought out, okay? And they do that for a reason, like I said, not because they're denying you food, but for the simple fact they don't want to clean the streets of any fruit that a tree would bear. So certain genetically typed trees, which ain't hard to do if you are ever been in forestry or understand planting, there is different types of trees and plants. So you can do that. Anyway, long story short, the Industrial Revolutions took us away from nature's way. And how did that do that medically? For example, it changed the whole medical practice through Mr. Nova Rockefeller. If you go back and look and Google whatever you want to do to look at Nova Rockefeller and how he affected the medical system, how he affected the actual general education system, okay? And I'm talking about public education. This man re-educated America through his wealth and money in the oil industry. He figured out how to chemically make medicines with oil. So that's what, everything industrialized took over what was naturally taken care of before. Like medicine was practiced with herbal and natural ways that a person with knowledge could do on their own if they could find that particular fruit or substance and whatever. Serious, and then came along Nova Rockefeller. So sorry, did not mean to say that. Mr. Rockefeller is what I meant to say. And not only that, but he had enough money to fund like colleges in the medical field to translate everything from what you learn naturally, like where it originates from really, to the chemical replacement for it all. Thus, the medical system and the pharmaceutical system that has consumed our medical system like a whale, seriously. Our medical system, at least in this country, is so restricted based on the rules and regulations put in place because since 9/11, we have turned our medical guidance over to government control. Every time the government has involved themselves in a situation, the housing market, the banking system, all of it now under government control because they saved the day and bailed them out. So there's always consequences to things, and sometimes those aren't the best actions. Dave Chappelle knew that the big payoff to be saved at the moment wasn't what he wanted. He wanted the big payout at the end, and he wanted to own it all. He didn't want to owe it to anybody, and that's what he did. And that's exactly what we should have done, but the government pretty much made its own decision without us. And that's the part that has always pissed me off a little bit. Like, couldn't we vote on that, if anything else? And then they'll say, well, you could have contacted your representative. Not when the representative is already paid off by the corporate side of things. there's no representation. It's already predetermined. It's like you're just there for the show. But they say that you're involved. So when you can, at voting time, that's the time to find the people that follow your narrative. Will you find someone that believes in natural herbs and all that in the political field? No. So don't waste your time, probably. Go for it if you want. I mean, I'm not saying no, but the Industrial Revolution happened in the early 1900s. So 100 plus years of that. The next time that I think society has evolved, and we're in the early stages of, is the internet age. That's right. That rooster knows what I'm talking about. The internet age has certainly changed the way society operates, even looks at itself and the way it's moving. Like, it moves very fast, doesn't it? Seems a lot of things are always happening. And people are so desensitized to things that would have been shocking just 20 years ago and just unbelievable 50 years ago. And just unfathomable, anything plus beyond that. So, take a moment, realize that you are surrounded by so much control, that you were raised by it. That's why I always say question everything. The more you question everything, the more you're doing an exercise for your brain. The more you're craving freedom to know more, to feel like you're entitled to that. And folks, if you're entitled to anything, education is one of them. And what I mean by that is not going to school. Educate yourself. Learn about it on your own. You have all that mark of the beast right there in your hand. All the information in the world is available at your fingertips. It's the apple of knowledge right there. You're Adam or Eve right now. Literally in that moment. In the future, far ahead, making those same decisions. Will I eat from the apple or not? Ooh, there's a deep thinker for you. Told you this Friday I always had some fun things to talk about. But yeah, the Industrial Revolution, I believe, is the reason why you have trees that are genetically planted and put in place, and the way things are set up in cities that are mostly concrete, or built from within. I'm talking about like New York and LA and major metropolitan places. Here it would be like Dallas. Big trucks going by. Love hearing that. That's America moving right there. Big trucks. Gotta believe in them. Truly. Next time you see a trucker, they're assholes sometimes, but that's America moving. That's that. You know, one day it'll be just robots driving on the road. One day. You'd laugh at me. They already are. I just, not to get off topic of anything really, but the Industrial Revolution changed the way cities were built. And the way cities are built is controlled vegetation within to, like Jurassic Park said, they planted because they're pretty, but back then they were deadly, you know. What you're doing is you're kind of harming a society. That would probably need that in their lives. But let's face it, folks, you can't control vegetation. If we died off, eventually the outside would take over the inside. All that would be covered. I mean, we all know what the future would be like. You can't keep that back. Really, you can't. I mean, that's how we exist if it wasn't for vegetation on this planet. And I'm not talking about eating it either, but yes, eating it as well, but not totally that. I mean, just breathing, you need vegetation. I mean, we're part of everything. The whole circle of life thing, man. Come on now, Lion King fans. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, The Industrial Revolution, I would say, would be the cause of the reason why trees are planted that way in cities. And that is a topic today that I saw through a TikTok that was shared with me with another viewer on TikTok, actually. And so I was like, yeah, I'll address that. The Industrial Revolution changed so many aspects. The medical field is the biggest one of all. The public education system was affected by the Industrial Revolution. All of it mostly through Mr. Rockefeller. And you know Rockefeller. You hear it every year at Rockefeller Center, New York. The man is very synonymous with a lot of influence that's happened in the early 19th century. And so much of a staple that we have all been raised on it. So when I talk about unity, you got to realize that the unity I want to see from people is just through some respect and love for one another. Because I don't think everybody needs to be the same. And I don't think that we need to be controlled. And I think we need to be more connected with this planet than the Industrial Revolution had to offer. I think the Indians had it right. You got to live with nature and not against it. I do think technology is great. I love the advancements. I love all the stuff I have, this little plastic box in my hand. I love my apple of knowledge. I love my mark of the beast. But I'm going to use it for good. I'm going to do the right things with it. Because like any other thing in the entire world that has ever been offered to man, you can either pick up the hammer and build something, or you can hit somebody in the head. That is caveman thinking down to its simplest 5-year-old form of understanding. You can either build something, or you can beat it down. It's up to you what you do with the hammer. It can either be a tool or it could be a weapon. The internet, this little apple in my hand, is no different. Like I said, folks, think about it. Go back a couple episodes and catch up on that Mark of the Beast episode, too. That dropped this past week. We were talking about how we can use that for unity. Like I said, that was the topic of the week. Unity is understanding the control that they've always had you under, and that you have always craved the same very thing that your enemy craves right next door to you, that can't stand you living next door to them. You both crave the freedom to be who you are. And you both deserve it. But you both got to respect each other to keep it in your yard. And when you go out in the street, remember, you're sharing it. Nobody owns it. All right, folks, that's a little bit of some positivity for your Friday morning, and really getting into some more of the... I mean, folks, you're never going to come together until you realize the lies you've all been told. Regardless of what you believe in, you have to understand that life is how you see it. It is your bubble, and inside that bubble is whatever you want it to be. And if you want it to be full of everything that you've been told, and enjoy that piece of steak like Cypher does in The Matrix, where ignorance is bliss, so be it. I get it. I understand a lot of people want to stay plugged. They want to stay safely connected to where they don't have to see the truth behind everything. But once that itch starts to scratch and you need to know everything behind the curtain, yeah, that's right. Those roosters start going off, and next thing you know, you're waking up. You're seeing it. You're seeing everything that you are supposed to see. You're seeing a lot of things that you didn't expect to see. A lot of things you don't want to see. There's a lot of information out there, folks, and it's up to you to decide what's true and what is not. You have a little compass in your body, your energy, your vibe. It tells you if something feels right and something feels wrong. And if you don't understand, have a little conversation about it. Never assume. Never be angry. And never go off the handle. Be in control of your bubble. Be in control of your emotions. Be in control of your energy. The more you can do that, the more you can find happiness in the darkest of places. It's called redemption. And it's all inside of you. Just got to find your own path. You got to stay that course. Remember, last night we talked about the marathon. Got to keep running. Got to keep running. Don't let anything sidetrack you. It's going to be hard. You're going to cry. You're going to hurt. You're going to make decisions that you don't want to make, but you have to. It's okay. Everybody does. Don't feel judged for it. Keep moving forward. That's right. That's right, roosters. Tell them. All right, folks, go out there. Conquer the day with a little love and laughter. Because if you don't, you're going to wind up being a victim. Happy Friday.